What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, yesterday, Sony held their State of Play, and for the most part, it was met with underwhelming reactions online, but still, there were a bunch of games announced there, and I figure we go over everything here today. Also, we are going to be talking about a big announcement that came out of that State of Play. That's Astro Bot, as we did get a bunch of new details showing that Team Asobi is not messing around with this one, and then we did get some of our first indication when it comes to sales numbers for Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, and we can, of course, compare them to the original GameCube release to see how it's holding up. So if you guys enjoy this video, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton, and if new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below, and of course, members of the channel do get Newswave early. If you'd like to learn more about that and support the channel further, click the join button down below this video. And we're going to start today with God of War Ragnarok, as it was announced for PC during that State of Play, and well, people noticed some of the fine print and of course that little asterisk that was there on the Steam page, which you can see this posted up by Wario64, saying that God of War Ragnarok on PC requires, yes, a PSN account, which was obviously the center of controversy online around Helldivers 2 and how Sony did not require that for a while, and then they came back and said, okay, now you need to sign up to play a game that you've already purchased. My thing with this, though, is clearly this is Sony's strategy when it comes to these PC releases. They're trying to get you into their general ecosystem, even if you're on Steam. The issue they ran into with Helldivers 2 is that they did not do that from the start, so it's not a great look to go back and then require it on a purchase that someone had already made, and that's the big reason, as well as a ton of people were playing and it was very popular and they didn't want to lose that user base, but that's why they backtrack on it. In this case, if a game comes out and they have it at launch, they're going to make that push, and it's not shocking for me anyway to see this was God of War Ragnarok, but still, there will be backlash, and I assume Sony's going to push through it, but you never know. We saw what happened with Helldivers 2, I guess God of War Ragnarok could run into the same thing. Also, there is a new Pac-Man game that released couple of weeks ago, and it's a battle royale style. So there's 64 players and you battle it out in Pac-Man fashion. There's only one issue. The game actually hasn't been able to accrue enough players to fill out an entire room. We can see this is posted up and noticed over on X. This is from Daily Pac-Man, said according to SteamDB at the time of this writing, the all-time peak player count for Pac-Man Megatunnel Battle Chomps on PC has yet to reach the game's 64-player quota. Now, they have it clocked in at 52 all-time, and that's what I saw as well. And when I checked, actually, there were 3 people who were playing. So, I mean, yeah, nowhere near the 64-player. And it's a $20 game. I don't know if that is like the biggest barrier of entry, but still, people are going to look at that and go, should I pick this up for $20? I mean, I think some people are going to look at something like this, especially a battle royale, and we had like something like Pac-Man 99, look at that and say, well, it should be free to play, right? Well, not here. And unfortunately, if it's not even able to hold up 64 players to fill out an entire room, and that's never even happened at all, it's probably never going to get there, because eventually you'll see Bandai Namco kind of pull support and move on to something else. Oh, and it does look like that final Redfall update did release. We can see this posted up on their official account, where they say Game Update 4 is available now and features offline mode, revamped neighborhood, and nest systems, single-player pausing, and more. So you can, of course, click through there and check out some of the patch notes and stuff. But this is pretty much it. This puts the bookend on Redfall and really Arcane Austin then. So yeah, unfortunate stuff there. They're being dissolved for the most part, and about half the studio, I believe, is being broken up and then sent off to help out with some of the other projects. And then there's also a bunch of layoffs that will accompany that. But that's basically the end of Redfall. They're moving to refund anyone who bought like the Bite Back edition that had the expansion and contents that they're never going to get to at this time. But at least it is playable offline. Again, I'm not really here to tell you that Redfall is a good game, but it's at least there and present just in case in 10 years people want to see what Arcane Austin's last project was. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Sony's State of Play. It ran for about 35 minutes, and it did indeed have 14 games there. Not necessarily 14 new games. In fact, there were many that we already knew about or have already even released or been in different betas, but they wanted to highlight them here anyway. And the biggest drawback for this show, as you're going to see, none of their major studios were there with anything massive necessarily to show off, because that's clearly something I guess they would save for a showcase, and that's something that a lot of the fans have been calling for. But nonetheless, let's go down the list here for everything that was announced at this State of Play. Starting at the top with Concord. This took up roughly a third of the overall showcase. I clocked it in just over 12 minutes, and good chunk of that was a pre-rendered cutscene where they were trying to introduce some of the different characters, because it is indeed a hero shooter. And that having the lore behind the different characters is a big deal for games like Overwatch, and this appears to be Sony's take on an Overwatch game. So they see how popular those games can be. Not all of them will be that way, but they see it, so they believe they can do the same thing. So Firewalk is going to take a shot at here with Concord. I was pretty disappointed to see this myself, because I didn't think this is what Concord was going to be, although, I mean, I guess they didn't really show us much in the first place, but I'm so hero shootered out. I mean, let me know if you're still someone who's really in the trenches with a lot of this hero shooter stuff and is excited for this, which is great if you are, but once I saw what looked like kind of General Mills Guardian of the Galaxy style there with the cutscene and sort of the players and the writing, I think I'm good on that one. Either way, there will be a beta in July, and it will be launching August 23rd, 2024 for PC and PlayStation 5. Moving on, they then showed God of War Ragnarok on PC, ultra-wide support, a slew of different upscale options like DLSS, FSR, and it is coming out September 19th. Next up, we had Dynasty Warriors Origin. So, hey, awesome to see this for Dynasty Warriors fans. This is another franchise that, I don't know, it's because I've been in gaming for so long, I'm kind of Dynasty Warriored out at this time. But for fans of the franchise, really cool to see this. That is coming out, though, 2025. So, have to wait a little while on that one. Then we had Infinity Nikki. There's a test in Q3 2024. Not really sure what to make of this one, but hey, you know what? I'm sure RGT was real excited watching that. Then we had Ballad of Antara, that's 2025. Behemoth, this is on the PSVR 2, which we did hear there would be PlayStation VR 2 titles here. It's interesting, it's set in like medieval time, swords, there's a grappling hook, there are some pretty big bosses, and I feel like in VR that'd be much more impactful to stand in front of a Colossus-style boss right in front of you that you have to take down. Coming out fall 2024. Then we have Alien Rogue Incursion, that's holiday 2024 for the PSVR 2, and I think this is one of the more interesting titles for that headset that I'm looking at right now. I think it makes sense to have this even around kind of the Halloween time period. Being tracked by a xenomorph alien isolation style, but in a VR headset would be absolutely terrifying, and I wouldn't mind checking that out. Marvel Rivals, again, another hero shooter. We've already seen this. We've talked about this here on the show. It was released previously into beta. It was talked about. People have shown clips online, and it's from NetEase. It's July 2024, though, for a closed beta on the PlayStation 5. Then we had Where Winds Meet. There's no release date on that right now, and we are seeing more and more of these action, samurai, ninja-style games, and this one, they're all starting to look very samey to me, but still, it's another one to check out here. Again, no release date, though. Until Dawn, heard about this before. There was, of course, a rumor going around about it. Fall 2024, PlayStation 5 and PC. Path of Exile 2, which is a very good game, going to PlayStation 5 late 2024 with early access. There is also crossplay and cross progression. So if you want to move your character around or play with friends who are on other platforms, you can do that here. And then we had Silent Hill 2, which Konami also had an extended look for gameplay, about 13 minutes or so actually at their own showcase later on in the day. It looks better in this trailer than it did previously. Bloober Team said that, and you know what? Hey, they were right. It still doesn't look like it's on the level of a Resident Evil remake that we've seen from Capcom, where they've taken some of the older Resident Evils, of course, moved them up with 2 and 3 and 4. But it definitely looks like they've modernized Silent Hill 2 without just outright trying to ruin the thing. So I am looking forward to checking this one out. October 8th, so fits in with that Halloween time, and I'll be checking that one out then. Monster Hunter Wilds looks great. Dynamic weather was really playing an effect here with this battle. There's lightning shooting down mid-fight. Visually speaking, it looks great. Probably the best-looking Monster Hunter game I've seen so far. 2025, though, of course, still have a bit of time to wait on that one. And then finally, the big closeout. Astro Bot is indeed getting its own big release, and this to me is exciting stuff. Now we're going to go a bit more in depth with Astro Bot as we had some other details, and I just made it its own section because, I mean, the game looks awesome, but just kind of reflecting on the state of play, I did a reaction to it yesterday. I've thought a bit more about it since then, and you know, there's always the chance that Sony could announce more stuff, say, at Summer Game Fest. We've seen them work with Jeff Keighley in the past. This just felt very underwhelming in general. I mean, Concord, I just don't think was going to be the game that was really going to move things along for a lot of PlayStation fans, as they typically look towards more narrative single player driven experiences, not a hero shooter or like a kind of a knockoff Overwatch. We'll see again when it comes out and we have the closed beta stuff to go off of. But it didn't seem like a showcase that really was going to move the needle for Sony. However, Astro Bot, well, that might be another story. Next up, let's talk about an update for PlayStation Blog that did give us more details on a game that's coming out September 6th, and that is indeed Astro Bot. That's right, it's 3 months out from reveal, and I think that is awesome for a game like this to show it and then be like, oh yeah, you can pick it up September? How's that sound? Good? 3 months from now? Awesome. It kind of plays against what we've seen with Sony previously, where they will show the same game multiple times at E3s year and year and year, right? In this case, though, hey, we'll see in a couple months. And with PlayStation Blog, we got some more details on it. Starting with pre-orders, as this is something that, of course, has come up. How much is the game going to cost? We're going to find out June 7th. I'm kind of thinking Sony's going to take a shot at full price on this one at $70, and there's going to be some whiplash for people looking at that like, oh, $70 on that. But hey, you want the big 3D platforming Astro game, and maybe Sony's looking around like, we're going to price this similar to how Nintendo might price Mario. So maybe they're going to push that route. We'll see. It could also be a $50 or a $60 game. Well, there's room for them to play around with the pricing there. But 6 galaxies spanning over 80 levels. And the idea here is Astro has a crew that's been strewn about this galaxy on these different levels, and you have to find them. There's unique planets, they say, from lush forests, sandy beaches, hot volcanoes, which we saw a lot of these environments in that very fast-moving trailer. They also mentioned more surprising locations, such as a gigantic hourglass or the canopy of a single tree. I really do think that Team Asobi is just allowed to have all kinds of fun with this game just based on the trailer that they showed. It really looked like they're going to do all kinds of wild stuff here. There's over 15 new abilities taking full advantage of the DualSense controller. We know Team Asobi in the past, with like them and Japan Studio and stuff, they've worked alongside of a lot of the technology that Sony will put out. So it's not shocking to hear that they're going to go full on with this DualSense controller, maybe do things we haven't seen before. There's over 70 new enemy types. It's packed, as they say, with die and retry levels to test your reflexes for those looking for challenge. And they do mention the character cameos quite a bit. In fact, they've kind of alluded to the idea of them playing a bigger role. And if you look at the trailer, they showed all kinds of different cameos there, whether it's from Uncharted, Parappa. We saw all kinds of references to the different PlayStation generations. So yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of fun Easter eggs and different things to find, especially if Astro's Playroom was anything to go on. And that's kind of how I'm viewing this, is a much larger Astro's Playroom. That's like the foundation. Now they're going to the next level with Astro Bot, and I'm really excited for this one. September 6th, I'm there day one, even if it is a $70 game. This just feels like, for Sony, we hear about experiences, narrative-driven adventures. This just feels like a video game, like in the most basic sense, and that's something I like to see alongside of these big narrative-driven, over-the-top experiences. Something just fun with Astro Bot. So exciting stuff. This, to me, absolutely saved the state of play. It would have been, at least in my eyes, nearly disastrous. So Team Asobi, hey, good stuff with Astro Bot. I'll be there day one to check it out. Next up, let's talk about the Japanese sales charts from last week that gives us an idea as to how Paper Mario: Thousand Year Door did in its debut, which we can see this posted up over on install base form. At the top, we do have Paper Mario: Thousand Year Door sitting at 115,649 copies. Now, when compared to the GameCube version that released 20 years ago, that came in at 137,750 copies. So, I mean, this is trailing behind it. However, we didn't have digital sales back then, and now we do. And if we even assume a 70-30% split, Paper Mario: Thousand Year Door is either right in line with the GameCube version or outselling it by a few thousand copies. So it's not absolutely crushing a game that came out on a smaller install size with the GameCube, which did not necessarily do well for Nintendo when it comes to just outright unit sales. But still, it's probably doing well enough for a remake, remaster, whatever people want to refer to it as, that wasn't over the top with new content all over the place and completely redoing it like you may see from Super Mario RPG, which did significantly better, I can say, than Thousand Year Door. But then we have Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, of course. Why not at number 2? Earth Defense Force World Brothers 2. That's at 3. Ring Fit Adventure. Animal Crossing New Horizons. Stellar Blade. Minecraft on the Switch. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Super Mario Bros. Wonder. And then Splatoon 3 to round out the top 10. Moving over to the hardware, the Switch did jump up about 8,000 or so units, though, to 48,032. The PlayStation 5 also had a nice little jump there of about 6,000 units to 23,368. The Xbox Series fell a bit, about 500 units down to 2,099. And then the PS4, wow, it more than doubled to 131 systems. So the Switch continues to power along in its 8th year in terms of hardware sales in Japan, and Paper Mario Thousand Year Door will be interesting to see when Nintendo themselves report numbers, just outright, like across all regions, because I am curious to see the comparisons back to the GameCube and then also like the Origami King, just to see if Nintendo maybe looks at that and goes, okay, we can do this more traditional format when it comes to the battle system or just sort of the structure of Paper Mario, and they can work on that into a brand new title, maybe for the next generation device, the Switch 2. So something to keep an eye on here with Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, especially the next time Nintendo talks with investors. And then our last bit of news, let's talk about the Evercade Alpha, which is a bar top arcade unit that actually takes cartridges. We can see this though posted up. This was over on Evercade with their official account, where they say introducing Evercade Alpha, the first Evercade compatible arcade machine. Now they are showing off 2 different versions of it, and they do have 2 just designs in general, but each one has different games to pick from. So there's 6 built-in Capcom games per unit that will vary. They have 2-player local multiplayer as an option with, you got to buy these extra controllers to do it, but it is possible. And it's compatible with more than 50 of those Evercade carts. Some of those cartridges are like, they're compilation cartridges that have a bunch of different games on there, but yeah, you can buy physical carts of older titles, pop them into this machine, and it'll play like a little arcade cabinet, so that's actually pretty cool. The pricing though starts at $230. That's what they discounted pre-order price, so it's not like a necessarily cheap thing, because I mean it'll go up from there if $230 is the discounted rate. Pre-orders are live June 4th, and it will go on sale fully in November. So I do like the idea of arcade cabinets in general taking cartridges. I think that's a fun idea. And while I have looked at like Arcade 1-Up, and that's kind of evolved to a position where I'm not really as excited when they announce one because it comes with a massive price sticker attached to it, like $1,000 a time just about. I do look at this and go, okay, something more counter level, and it's sort of a play on what they've done with their arcade setup in general with their own little cartridges that you use. Like that is at least somewhat compelling because there's expandability there beyond just what you get with the built-in game. So something interesting, probably more for arcade cabinet collectors or people who are trying to build out a game room. And before we go to the comments of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, give the Sony State of Play a grade. C, it's pretty much the number one answer here, then D, then F, okay, then B, then, wow, 4% graded an A. Yeah, I'm probably right there. I'd say probably about a D. And if it wasn't for Astro Bot, I might have given the thing an F. It was really like that. I mean, I just feel it was very underwhelming for what was shown at this State of Play around this time when we believe Microsoft is probably gonna have a pretty good showing themselves in June, and then Nintendo will have at least something to show off from their first-party studios, even if it's like remasters, remakes, that sort of thing. People are already thinking Switch 2 anyway, so they're kind of looking beyond this this direct coming up, whereas this, people were kind of like, okay, maybe Sony's going to do something big with first parties. And while Astro Bot was there, I think people are looking like, okay, what's Naughty Dog doing? What's Sucker Punch doing? What's Sony Santa Monica doing? What's Ben doing? There are a lot of other studios that they were looking for that just weren't here. So yeah, you're going to get an underwhelming State of Play then. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Rockstar, who says that chart shows that we can indeed have 10-year console cycles if the hardware and games are good enough. I'd be on board with that personally. Yeah, I don't think any, especially now, we're seeing the diminishing returns. No one's really calling for 8K resolution. People are pretty happy with 4K, just that being expanded and improved with higher frame rates, right? And obviously we're talking about picture quality as well, OLED, different versions of LED displays. I kind of feel like 4K is a good spot for us to just kind of build laterally almost with that. And then when you look at consoles with diminishing returns, I do wonder how much that mid-gen refresh is going to be required for the mainstream with the PS5 Pro, and if maybe the PS6 and Microsoft's next system, maybe they are able to make that last 10 years because visuals are just, like, that's usually what you sell a new generation on, are the graphics. I don't know if you can really do that as much anymore, so maybe we'll get 10 years out of the next system before we start hearing about, like, the PlayStation 7. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today, whether Sony and their state of play, what you think of the show overall, and then also, what about Astro Bot? Are you picking that up in a few months? And then Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. Would you like to see Nintendo go in the direction of that for a brand new Paper Mario game, or do you like the idea of them doing weird and wild stuff like the Origami King? Thanks guys for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see you back here Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time for Newswave.